ለመማር ወደ ትምህርት ተቋም መሄድ ግድ አይደለም።
ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
ራሳችሁን ከኮሮና ቫይረስ ወረርሽኝ እየጠበቃችሁ በቤታችሁ ወይም በተመቻችሁ ቦታ
በኢንተርኔት አማካኝነት በኦንላይን ትምህርታችሁን መከታተል ይቻላል።
ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና
ከእንግሊዙ ኢንስቲትዩት ኦፍ ኮመርሻል ማኔጅመንት ICM ጋር በመተባበር የሚሰጡ ትምህርቶችን ተከታትላችሁ በ6 ወር ጊዜ በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ተቀባይነት ያለውን የስልጠና ማስረጃ ባለቤት መሆን ይቻላል።
ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና ባገኘንባቸው የፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን እና የሆስተስ ስልጠናም በምዝገባ ላይ ነን።
ጥያቄና መልስ፣ የክፍል ስራዎች ብሎም ፈተና መፈተን ክፍል ውስጥ እንዳላችሁ አይነት
ልምድ ባላቸው መምህራን እየተማራችሁ
በኦንላይን ባላችሁበት ቦታ
አድራሻ ከ22 ማዞሪያ ወደ ሾላ ገበያ በሚወስደው መንገድ 150 ሜትር ገባ ብሎ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ
ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
Last time we have discussed about how the global environment is working towards different sovereign states. International relationship should be maintained by states, and the states usually employ social, economical, and business relationship must be facilitated. And this relationship is up to the government to create, to maintain, and if necessary, to quit. Okay, you can see 3 steps in here. 3 steps, 3 stages are understood at this level. The relationship between 2 independent, 2 sovereign states. Therefore, government took the responsibility. The head of the state, that means government, will take the initiative even to create this kind of relationship. So we have discussed last time, the creation of international relationship is up to the government, up to the authority of the government to create a peaceful co-relationship among states. ባለፈው እንደተነጋገርነው አገሮች የሚኖራቸውን ግንኙነት ሱፐርቫይዝ የሚያደርገው ክሬት የሚያደርገው ሜንቴን የሚያደርገው ማን ነው ብለናል? It is not up to the concern for regional states, but it is the federal state who is going to be responsible to create this relationship. Okay, this is the first point that you should know. And the other main point we have discussed last time was it's not only enough to create international relationship. It's not enough to create international relationship, but maintaining this relationship is important. ይሄንን ኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽንሺፕ መፍጠር ብቻ ሳይሆን ሜንቴን ማድረግም ያስፈልጋል፣ ይዞ መቆየትም ያስፈልጋል ማለት ነው። So maintaining that relationship is also the responsibility of government. Okay, what if it is unbalanced power relationship that exists between states? በእነዚህ ሀገሮች መካከል የሚፈጠረው relationship ግን if it is not smooth, if it is not good, if it is not something that we are really likely to have, then cutting this relationship is up to the authority of government. So you should bear in mind 3 basic things: creating, maintaining, and ending that relationship is up to the responsibility of who? Government. ስለዚህ መንግስት ሪሌሽንሺፑ እንዲፈጠር ይዞ ለረጅም ዓመት እንዲቆይ አስፈላጊ ባልሆነበት ሰዓት ደግሞ ያንን ሪሌሽንሺፕ ከት የማድረግ ሙሉ ስልጣን ይኖረዋል ማለት ነው። And as we have seen last time, to create, I mean to do what I have said earlier, አሁን የተናገርኳቸውን ነገሮች ለማድረግ it can be done through different things. It can be done through different means. It is by opening up embassies. It is by creating different offices. የተለያዩ ቢሮዎችን በመክፈት ኤምባሲዎችን በመክፈት by appointing different ambassadors, የተለያዩ አምባሳደሮችን በመሾም government tries to create and maintain this linkage. ይሄንን link ይዞ ለመቆየት ይሞክራል ማለት ነው። This is all what we have discussed last time. ይሄ ባለፈው የተነጋገርነው ትምህርታችን ነበር ማለት ነው። Now I'm going to discuss with you today about the structure of international system, and I'm going to move to the second chapter. What is the structure of international relationship? International relationship, it maintains a political power, and it is just the distribution of power. It is simply the distribution of power. So how international relationship can work on? እንግዲህ በዓለም ላይ power is very, very important. Power is said to be a currency of international politics. The most powerful states emerge like a leader, like a ruler of the world. So as money is very, very important for economics, power is very essential for international relations. እንግዲህ የኢኮኖሚክስ ትምህርት የቢዝነስ ትምህርታችን ላይ በተደጋጋሚ ስለ ፋይናንስ ስለ መኒ በተደጋጋሚ ይነሳል። In the case of international relationship, it is power. Power is very, very important, and it determines the relative influence of actors, and it shapes the structure of international system. It really influence. You see, sometimes በጣም powerful የሆኑ states አንዳንድ ኢንፍሉዌንሻል የሆኑ ስቴቶች አገሮች ማለት ነው በጣም ትልልቅ ውሳኔዎችን ሲወስኑ እና ዓለም ላይ ጫና ሲፈጥሩ እናያለን። ለምሳሌ to simple instance, America usually come up with different decisions that really threaten the world. ዓለምን የሚያንቀጠቅጥ የተለያዩ ውሳኔዎች በሚወስንበት ጊዜ especially with regard to immigrants ላይ በተመለከተ with regard to aid እርዳታዎች ላይ በተመለከተ with regard to even human rights በሰብአዊ መብቶች ላይ በተመለከተ የተለያየ አቋም ፖሊሲ ማለት በሚታወጣበት ጊዜ the rest of the world will be shaken. Why? It is because USA is the most powerful state in the world. Therefore, what in here we can try to understand is power is very, very important. The most powerful states can be influential in the international or in the global context. በጣም በኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽንሺፕ ጊዜ ላይ power is በጣም ክሩሻል ነገር ነው ማለት ነው። Other than USA, take a look at to Britain for instance. When Britain declares that ታስታውሳላችሁ ከአንድ አመት ከሁለት አመት በፊት ብሪቴን ከአውሮፓ ህብረት ወጣለሁ ብላ ባለችበት ወቅት how much the union was on the problematic situation. Do you remember? Do you remember the time when Britain declared that it's no more beneficiary for the state to be member of European Union, and at this time it was in the hardest possible way that Britain could do these things. So what do we understand from these things? Being the most powerful state is one of the army, okay, one of the tool to be the leader of the world. The other main point that you should note under international relations is the anarchy system. Anarchy is a situation where there is the absence of authority. Be it national or international global system, with the country anarchy, it means the breakdown of law and order. But the relation between states, it refers to a system where power is decentralized and someone?
Yes,
ሌላኛው በኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽን ትምህርታችሁ ማወቅ መገንዘብ ያለብን ነገር the anarchy system የሚባለው ነው። The anarchy system is where rules and regulations are easily broken. Okay, where government is government became authoritarian. Okay, you can mention a lot of states with this context. በዚህ ኮንቴክስት ውስጥ ያሉ ብዙ ሀገሮችን መጥቀስ ይቻላል። እስቲ can you give me some example? A country where the government is an authoritarian. Absolute power relies on government only. People are, victim of their main rights even. So can you give me some example of such kinds of states?
Korea.
North Korea.
Korea. Which Korea? South Korea. Okay.
North Korea.
North Korea. North Korea. South Korea. Good. Tell us.
Eritrea.
Eritrea. Good. Eritrea. These are substantially good examples in which the states, the ruling of government is assumed as if they are authoritarian. This means they by themselves violate many of its rules and order. Government ራሱ ሜክ ያደረገውን ህግ ራሱ ቫዮሌት የሚያደርገው ከሆነ there is a really problematic situation will be the most frequent phenomena. በተደጋጋሚ የምናየው ችግር በተደጋጋሚ የምናየው problem ይሆናል ማለት ነው if government by itself violated its rules and constitution. Therefore, the system of anarchy is somewhat a reason to create or to stop some international relation. አሁን እንደዚህ አይነት በጣም ህዝቡን የሚያሰቃዩ አገሮችን ምን ያደርጓቸዋል? they are out from other unions, other membership. ይሄ እኮ ማለት ልክ ራሳችሁ በዴይ ቱ ዴይ ጓደኝነታችሁ ላይ አንድ ጓደኛችሁ በጣም ዶሚኔት ለማድረግ የሚሞክር ከሆነ በጣም ሰልፊሽ ከሆነ ምንድነው የምናደርገው? we are not there even to spend our time with that individual, right? And at national level too, በሀገርም ደረጃ at national level too, if states are exercising their power beyond its limits, beyond its capability, then foreign states will decide to outcast ማግለል ማለት ነው, to outcast from any kinds of relationship. So these are some of the very important points that you should note under this chapter. Before I move to the second chapter, I will spend only very few minutes in dealing with theories of international relations. I'm going to send the material for you so that you can read by yourself. But just to make this very much simple, I'm going to spend few minutes to discuss with you some of the theories of international relations. በዓለም ደረጃ የነበሩ አንዳንድ በጣም ገዢ የሆኑ አስተሳሰቦችን በአጭር ደቂቃ ውስጥ ለመናገር እሞክራለሁ። The first thoughts, the first type, the first kind we can say of thoughts that once upon a time really bind all the countries of the world was the idea of liberalism or idealism. አሁን እነዚህን ከዚህ ቀጥዬ የምናገራቸውን ነገሮች አንዳንዴ በዜናም በመጽሐፍቶችም በተደጋጋሚ የምናያቸው በአንድ ወቅት ዓለምን በጣም ገዝተው የነበሩ just they are thoughts, they are just the product of human beings. የሰው ልጅ ያስተሳሰብ ያመለካከት ውጤቶች የነበሩ ነገር ግን በጣም ኢንፍሉዌንሻል የነበሩ ፕሪንሲፕሎችን ነው የምናየው። የመጀመሪያው the first one is liberalism. Liberalism, or sometimes it's called idealism. It is the founder was Immanuel Kant. Okay, the founder was Immanuel Kant, and he developed the idea in the late 18th century, and this is the main point of what idealism or liberalism is. Idealism or liberalism ማለት ይሄ ነው። ምንድነው የሚለው? The whole principle can be summed up like this. ሁሉም ፕሪንሲፕሉ በአንድ ላይ ሲጠቃለል የሚከተለውን አይነት ቅርጽ ይዛል። The principle says that states, countries, or generally speaking, the globe must be free from any war, any turmoil. Okay? Liberalism is, as you can understood by the name itself, ከስሙ ራሱ ለመረዳት እንደምትሞክሩት states must be free and war must be avoided. This is the ruling principle. War must be avoided from the world all in all. Immanuel Kant strongly believed that kings, leaders, uh, or government officials should avoid war as much as they can. የሀገር መሪዎች፣ ንጉሶች whomsoever you can call ማንም ልትሉ ትችላላችሁ። እነዚህ ሰዎች በሙሉ they should avoid war, and peace and harmony must be the center of the world. ሁሉም ነገር ወደ ፒስ ታርጌት ማድረግ አለበት። ኦኬ እንትን ታውቃላችሁ አይደለ? ይሄ የሚወረወር ቀስት everything should target that prey አይደል? prey የሚደረገው የሚታደነው ነገር ለመምታት ነው። so all states, all countries should work together to respect peace and harmony. peace and harmony ነው ዓለም ላይ ሊኖር የሚችለው የሚል ትልቅ አመለካከት፣ ትልቅ አስተሳሰብ የነበረው principle ነበር። however the world was divided into different groups. በዛ ወቅት ግን ዓለም በተለያየ አስተሳሰብ ተከፋፍላ ነበር። there was a cold war between US and USSR. USSR ማለት የዛሬዋ ራሽያ ማለት ነው። America and Russia was the two antagonizing world power at that time. In talking about peace and harmony was just a joke at that time. በዛ ሰዓት ስለ ሰላምና ስለ ሃርሞኒ ስለ ዩኒየን ማውራት እንደ ቀልድ የሚቆጠርበት ወቅት ነበር ማለት ነው። therefore what you simply can lay down from this context is Immanuel Kant is the founder of this theory, and he was really believing that international cooperation is mandatory for peaceful environment. The other, or the second the second main theory or thought which once upon a time governed the world was the thought of realism. ልክ እንደዚህ እንደ ሊበራሊዝሙ በአንድ ወቅት በጣም ተጨባጭ የነበረ በጣም ገዥ የነበረ አስተሳሰብ ደግሞ ሪያሊዝም የሚባለው። realism is this is the concept as if Immanuel Kant was for the previously mentioned theory. In this case, you know, wait, I'm going to show you something. Thomas Hobbes was the one who was really thinking about, by producing different books, he started to talk about human rights. Human beings should be treated well, and their main rights must be respected. And such kinds of things really threaten governments that were not democratic. Realism ደግሞ ከዚህ ከቀደም ካልነው የሚመሳሰል ነገር ግን it focuses on human rights. You can read the whole article from the points that I'm going to send for one of the representative. By the way, have you appointed a representative?
We have a representative.
Yeah, the representative can inbox his or her mail so that I can send you the material. When you have free time, you can read the whole story, because it is really difficult and impractical to cover all of the chapters by this virtual system. But just I'm going to give you some clue, and based on that clue, you can read further by your own. I think you can understand the situation, right? ግልጽ ነው? Agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any question? Do you have any question? So, generally speaking, This and other thoughts was really the phase that the world has once upon a time. Even in our country, the so-called socialism was one of the binding theory for 30 or 40 years ago. ወደኋላ 35 29 ዓመት 30 ዓመት ወደኋላ ብንጓዝ you can see how much socialism was really the most binding principle. According to socialism, people or individuals are not allowed enough to exercise their own religion. They are not allowed to exercise religion in general, whether it's Christianity or Islam. Socialism was anti-religion. They assumed that religion is something that bothers human beings. Human beings are free so that they can exercise their rights, they can work on all the days, therefore they can accumulate wealth. However, even if you can accumulate wealth, socialism did not allow you to have more than 500,000 per in your account or as a capital. ነገር ግን በሶሻሊዝም ፕሪንሲፕል ደግሞ ምንድነው አንድ ሰው ከ500 ሺህ ብር በላይ ገንዘብ ማጠራቀም የለበትም። It's just to diversify, it's just to make a balance. ዓለም ባላንስ መሆን አለበት። አንድ ሰው በጣም ሀብታም ሌላው ሰው ደግሞ በጣም ድሃ መሆን የለበትም። ስለዚህ to create equal status, a person should not have a property that worth beyond 500,000. ከዚህ ገንዘብ በላይ ሰው ማከማቸት የለበትም የሚል ፕሪንሲፕል ነበር ማለት ነው። It was a binding principle during the Derg period. በደርግ ፒሪየድ ጊዜ በዛ መንገድ ነበረ ሀገራችን ራሱ ስትተዳደር የነበረችው ማለት ነው። So do you see or can you imagine how much having an international mind or having a thought will really affect the relationship among the states? Even by inserting such kinds of thinking, states create a group. እንደዚህ አይነት አስተሳሰብን በመፍጠር አገሮች መቧደን ሁላ የጀመሩበት ጊዜ ነበረ። there is a saying, birds with the same feather fly together ይባላል አይደል? ተመሳሳይ አስተሳሰብ ያላቸው አገሮች they create a common front. ተመሳሳይ አመለካከት ተመሳሳይ አስተሳሰብ የነበራቸው አገሮች አንድ የሆነ ቡድን አንድ የሆነ ግንባር ሲሰሩ ተመልክተን ነበር። እንደ ኩባ እና ራሻ የመሳሰሉ ሀገሮች ኢትዮጵያንና የመሳሰሉትን ሀገሮች ሲረዱ የተመለከትንበት ወቅት ነበር ማለት ነው። So to sum up what we have discussed under the first chapter was about just an introductory part in which we have tried to understand common principles of international relations, what are states, how states are created, and how international relationships are accelerated, whom are really responsible to create, to maintain, and to end up international relationship was the main concern of the first chapter. So by now, I have already done the first chapter, and I am about to move to the second chapter. And before I move to the second chapter, you are really welcome to ask me any question you have.
I have a question.
Yeah. I'm listening.
ይሰማል?
Yes.
Okay. የሶሻሊዝም ፋውንደር ማን እንደሆነ ስፔሲፊክሊ ይታወቃል?
Specifically የሶሻሊዝም ፋውንደር እንደዚህ በግልጽ አናውቅም። It's just collective thoughts, collective theory ነው። በብዛት ግን ከሶሻሊዝም ጋራ የሚነሱ ስሞችን አታስታውሱም? ሶሻሊዝም በሚነሳበት ጊዜ በብዛት ስሙ በተደጋጋሚ የሚነሳ አንድ ፊሎሶፈር አለ አይደል? ማን ነው? Most of the time
that Karl Marx?
ማርክሲዝም ሁላ ይባላል አይደል? ሶሻሊዝም
Yeah.
Most of the time socialism was really associated with Marx and Lenin ይጠቀሳሉ እዚህ ጋር. It's a collective thought, it's a collective understanding, but most importantly, I really encourage you to understand the theory. And why you need to understand the theory, it is reasonable because it is the theory that binds the state together. Okay? ቲዮሪውን የምናጠናበት አንደኛው ምክንያታችን ለምን መሰላችሁ? አሁን እየተነጋገርን ያለ ነው we are not talking about philosophy ስለ ፊሎሶፊ ስለ ፍልስፍና አይደለም እየተማርን ያለ ነው ስለምንድን ነው ideas that bind state together that creates international relation. It creates international relationship on the basis of what? Ideology. አንዳንድ ጊዜ አይዲዮሎጂ ወይንም አይዲያ ኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽንሺፕ እንዲፈጠር ምን ይሆናል? ምክንያት ይሆናል። እነዚህ ምክንያቶች ደግሞ ዓለምን በአንድ ወቅት በጣም ያስተሳሰሩ አንድ ያደረጉ የሆነ ግሩፕ እንዲፈጠር ኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽንሺፕ እንዲፈጠር ያደረጉ አመለካከቶች ናቸው። That's the point. Understood? Do you understood? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Any more question if you have? Fine. If you don't have a question, we are going to see about understanding foreign policy and diplomacy. Foreign policy and diplomacy is really important concepts which really relates with the point that we have discussed in at the beginning of the class. I think we have talked about foreign policy. Foreign policy means it is just a document, it's just an agreement, it is just a valid agreement that makes like a contract. Okay, each party, each country will have rights and duties, so states should act accordingly. That was what we have said. The same thing in here. Foreign policy, diplomacy is the base for the relationship. And national interest is just to testify what the states need at the end of having that international relationship. Okay, the national interest refers to the set of values, orientations, goals, and objectives. Okay, national interest ማለት የሀገሪቱ ኢንተረስት ምንድን ነው? Wait me for a second. Okay, let me close the window. እናንተ ጋር መብራት ዝናብ እየዘነበ ነው?
አዎ እየዘነበ ነው።
አረጋግጥ ተጠቀመው።
Okay. So what I was trying to say is about national interest is important. What do those nations really want at the end of this relationship? ሀገሮች ከዚህ relationship የሚፈልጉት ነገር ምንድን ነው? Sometimes, as we have laid down at the beginning, sometimes it might be economic interest, it might be medicinal equipment, it might be professional, the sick for professionals, professional whatever the case is, national interest refers to a set of values, orientations, goals, you can say, an objective a given country would like to achieve from the international relation. ይሄንን በደንብ ሰመር አድርጋችሁ ያዙ። so identify
በትምህርት ከፍ ብሎ መብረር ይቻላል። ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ከከፍተኛ ትምህርት አግባብነትና ጥራት ኤጀንሲ ሙሉ ዕውቅናን ባገኘንባቸው በማስተርስ ዲግሪ MBA በስትራቴጂክ ማኔጅመንት፣ MBA በባንኪንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ MBA በቢዝነስ ሊደርሺፕ፣ MBA በሪስክና ኢንሹራንስ፣ MSc በኢንተርናሽናል ትሬድ እና ኢኮኖሚክስ ዘርፎች በእውቀት ለመቅረጽ የበቁ ፕሮፌሰሮቻችን አረንጓዴ መብራታቸውን አብርተዋል። በነገራችን ላይ በኬንያ ሀገር ከሚገኙ ስመጥር ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች በሚመጡ ፕሮፌሰሮች የትኩረት መስክ ትምህርቶቹ መሰጠታቸው ልዩ ያደርገናል። በምርጥ የትምህርት ስርዓት የተገነባው ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ በመጀመሪያ ዲግሪ በአቪዬሽን ማኔጅመንት፣ በሆቴል ማኔጅመንት፣ በአካውንቲንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ በማርኬቲንግ ማኔጅመንት አስተማማኝ ትምህርት ይገቢውና ራስዎንና ሀገሮን ይለውጡ። አድራሻ 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
identifying what we really need criteria to create international aviation. The first one is ideological criteria. አገሮች የተለያዩ ክራይቴሪያዎችን ያስቀምጣሉ ግንኙነት ከመጀመራቸው በፊት። The first is ideological criteria. What is ideological criteria? Most of the time government employ ideological criteria and establish their relation on the basis of that criteria. They may identify their friends or enemies countries using the litmus set of ideology. Just at an individual level, as an individual level, if I want to create good relationship with you, what do? I will think that whether your values are accordingly match with me or not, whether you are really do have the same values, the same standards with me or not. Likewise, countries do also the same thing. አገሮችም እንደዛ ideological taste ያደርጋል። You know, litmus paper is a paper when you put it into acid and base, it creates some sort of color change. Like that, before they have some kinds of relationship with each other, they taste their common ideology. If they have common ideologies, then they can create their relationship. That's why most of the time countries who are following the same religion, the same principle, are highly bonded ናቸው። በጣም mutual interest ይኖራቸዋል። ስለዚህ ሁለተኛው ኮንሴፕት ምንድነው? moral and legal criteria የሚለው ነው። moral and legal criteria are what is moral, by the way? What is moral? What is moral? Moral.
Motivation.
Huh?
Motivation.
No? Moral is? Tell me the similarities and difference between moral and legal. We said that we said, for example, respecting the elders is moral or immoral? Respecting elders, old people.
Moral.
It is something moral, yeah? And paying your monthly payment to your school is moral or legal? Legal. Huh? So what's the difference between moral and legal? Rodas.
I think moral city አንቺ በውስጥሽ from instinct የምታረጊው ነገር ነው፣ ግዴታ አይደለም። ግን from
who told me or who put it this instinct into me?
From our environment የምትማሪው ነው። አንደኛ ነገር ካልቸርሽ አጠገብሽ ያለውን ነገር እንትን በማድረግ ልትወስዱ ነገር ነው። አሁን ትላልቆችን ማክበር የኢትዮጵያን ካልቸር ነው። ሶ ሌጋል አይደለም፣ ግን በሞራሊ እንትን ያለሽ ማለት ነው። ሰው ትልቅ ሰው ቆሞ አንቺ ተቀምጠሽ ሞራሊ ጥሩ አይደለም ላንቺ። ሌጋሊ ግን ግዴታ የምታረጊው ነገር ነው፣ ማድረግ ያለብሽ ነገር ነው።
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Can I
Okay.
answer?
Yeah.
Moral means simply moral means concerned with the principle of right and wrong behavior ማለት ነው። ሌጋል የምንለው ደግሞ obviously related to the law ነው or ደግሞ permitted by the law ማለት ነው ሌጋል ሲሆን።
Yeah. Very good. That's a good difference. Have mentioned the difference between moral and legal. If something is moral, the society that I have lived in puts some criteria as right and wrong, as acceptable or non-acceptable, and that is what moral is. Okay. And when we come to what is legal and illegal, it's related with what the state says, what government says. Legally speaking, there are some acceptable behaviors that you should act accordingly. Otherwise, what will come? There comes a consequence, and the consequence is obviously penalty. Legal የምንለው ነገር ህጋዊ የሆነ ነገር ያንን ህጋዊ የሆነ ነገር ባናደርገው there would be a bad consequence. The consequence would be imprisonment, መታሰር ሊሆን ይችላል፣ monetary payment የገንዘብ ቅጣት ሊሆን ይችላል. Even sometimes if we commit a very serious mistake, then the penalty might to lose our lives. It's a capital punishment. ህይወት ቅጣት የሞት ቅጣት ማለት ነው። እስከ ሞት ቅጣት ድረስ ሊያደርስ ይችላል። that is related with law ከህግ አንጻር እንደዚህ ነው። what is moral and immoral is it is up to the society. Okay. It is up to the culture that we are living in. Culturally, for example, it is strictly forbidden by our culture and by our law to have the same-sex marriage, right? Having the same-sex marriage is both immoral to our religion, to our custom, and also to the level of government. በገቨርንመንት ደረጃ በህግ ደረጃ ወንድ ከወንድ ሲጋባ ሴት ከሴት ስትጋባ ሰርግ ለምሳሌ ብንጠራ እንደዚህ አይነት ጋብቻ ላይ እነዚህ የተጋቡ ሰዎች ቀጥታ ቀኝ ኋላ ዞረው ወደ እስር ቤት ነው የሚገቡት። ለምን? this is one of the activity prohibited by the law. Here, what's my point? Sometimes our moral principles, what we allow and what we prohibit, might be a reason to create relationship, to create international relationship. Okay. What are the essential laws that apply to the community? What are some of the rules that are identified and acceptable? The pre-existence of some laws, moral standards, legals might be a reason to create some relationship. For example, take a look at two Arab states. They have United Arab Emirates, they have the same religion, the same moral standard. They are following just to say a few words and to summarize what we have discussed today. እዚህ ጋር የምልክላችሁ ማቴሪያል ላይ የተለያዩ ክራይቴሪያዎች አሉ። ላይክ ፕሮፌሽን ክራይቴሪያ ይባላል። it is the basis on the considering your profession as a survival and growth. So states or countries can create relationship on basis of this. For independency criteria, this means how much states are dependent on each other. አንዳንድ ሀገሮች ምን ያህል ዲፔንደንት ናቸው ሌሎች ሀገራት ላይ በሚለው በኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽንሽፕ ይፈጠራል። So what I wanted to emphasize today is the basis for international criteria can be different from state to state, from country to country. the perception we have had, the understanding we have had would be really a reason to create international relation. ግልጽ ነው። ዝርዝሩን እናንተ እዚህ ጋር በደንብ ታነባላችሁ ማለት ነው። ክሊር ግልጽ ነው።
Yes.
Yeah. Any question? Okay. The other point that I have a plan to discuss with you is about foreign policy. Foreign policy, what is foreign policy and how do you define and what are the necessary steps we have passed through to have a foreign policy? Foreign policy is something that would like to achieve the external relationship to others. It is a manifestation of your interest, okay? It is how you reveal yourself to the other states. ራሳችንን የምንገልጽበት መንገድ ነው ማለት ነው። Okay? It is, you can define like this. It is a set of priorities. What are your priorities? What are things that you didn't compromise? Compromise የማናረጋቸው የሀገሪቱ ስታንዳርድስ ምንድን ናቸው? For instance, with related to borders, with related to natural resources, with regard to religion, with regard to some moral standards and so on. Okay, so it is a guideline. Okay, you can refer like this. Foreign policies are, these are guidelines, okay, that will help to achieve our objective. It is an instrument, you can say more. It is an instrument in which the states will equip with it themselves. Like an instrument and the okay, so you can lay down, you can put your priorities, your values, your goal, your mission as the end of that relationship. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to hold? What are the points that you have a border? መስመር የምታሰምሩበት ምን ላይ ነው? የማትደራደሩባቸው ነገሮች ምንድን ናቸው? So foreign policy involves a specific instruments, tactics that must be employed to realize those objectives and goals. Okay, in foreign policy, you can put the propaganda, the instruments, the economic instruments, the bargaining. All these things can be involved. To have economic strengths, to have cultural strengths, እንደ ቅድመ ሁኔታ የምታስቀምጣቸው ነገሮች ናቸው ማለት ነው። Security and survival are really relied on foreign policy. Do you know why the Battle of Ottawa was fought? It is because of some articles that Ethiopia and Eritrea were not agreed on. Nowadays, currently, even just to give you a current example, Ethiopia and Egyptians are really confronted dispute because of the signed agreement long time ago. That the Egyptians always put that policy to the table when there is always a discussion. ብዙ ጊዜ እነዚህ ግብጾች በአንድ ጊዜ ኢትዮጵያና ኢጅፕት የተፈራረሙትን የድንበር ውል የድንበር ኮንትራት በተደጋጋሚ ወደ አደራዳሪዎቻቸው ይዘው በመቅረብ ለማሸነፍ ይሞክራሉ። So you can see how much international policy is a threat for security. It is also a threat for survival. Okay? ስለዚህ international relationship ማለት foreign policy ላይ based ያደርጋል. So foreign policy has objectives. The objectives are like to set a short term or a middle or a long term goals and objectives. To have a win-win style. Okay, one of the countries should not be superior and the other should not be inferior. So both states should be a balanced benefit. ሁለቱም ሀገሮች ባላንስድ የሆነ ቤኔፊት እንዲኖራቸው የሚያስችል አግሪመንት ነው ማለት ነው። you can include the following things under your foreign policy. First, you should put your value placed on the objective. What is the value that you are expecting? Not the first thing is the place, the value that you need at the end of this agreement. Because the agreement value. What kind of value the country will add having this relationship? First. Second, the time element. From which time to which time this policy is abided. የምንፈርመው ፖሊሲ ከመቼ እስከ መቼ? ቅድም እንዳልኳችሁ it can stay for short period of time, for long period of time. It depends on your agreement. It really depends on the agreement you have concluded. Make በምታረጉት agreement ላይ time specific መደረግ አለበት. From which time to which time? This is the second most important thing that it must be included in the policy. Policy ላይ included መደረግ ያለበት ነገር ነው. Third, the kind of demand the objective imposes on other states as an international system. This means I demand something, okay? I need something, then what I have to do in return of that demand? And there is no free lunch, yeah? There is no free lunch. Therefore, what do I need to get that thing? ያንን ነገር ለማግኘት ያንን ነገር ለመቀበል የማረገው ከኔ የሚጠበቀው ነገር ምንድነው? This is the third basic element. So fulfilling these things will lead us to have foreign policy. Foreign policy ስናስብ ይሄንን ነገር ማሰብ አለብን ማለት ነው።
የመጀመሪያው ምንድን ነበር?
ምንድነው? The first is values. The first are core values and interest. Your interest in your value. What do you demand? እንደምትፈልጊው ከዚህ ኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽን የምንፈልገው ነገር ምንድነው? Okay? This is the first one. The second one is ምንድን ያልኳችሁ ሁለተኛው? Time frame. The time frame. Short age no? Middle aged no? ወይስ long aged ነው? ለአጭር ጊዜ ነው የምንፈልገው ይህንን አግሪመንት? ለረጅም ጊዜ ነው? ለ10 ዓመት ነው? ለ15 ዓመት ነው? It depends. And the third is ምንድን ያልኳችሁ? Your demand imposes something. Yeah, the demand imposes you something. Your demand የምትፈልጉት ነገር it creates to some kinds of payment. እንድናከብር የሚጠበቅብን እንድንከፍል የሚጠበቅብን ወይ እንድናረግ የሚጠበቅብን ነገር ሊኖር ይችላል። ለምሳሌ ፕሮፌሽናሎችን የሚልኩልን ከሆነ ከኢንዲያ ለምሳሌ በጣም በየፐብሊክ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ውስጥ ይገኛሉ መምህራን አይደለም? የመንግስት ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች ጋር ብትሄዱ it is highly populated by Indian instructors. So when India sends these instructors to work for you as a profession, so they demand something from you too. So that thing would be included in the foreign policy. So እነዚህ ሶስት ነገሮች አንደርስታንድ ካደረግን በቂ ነው. If you have any question, you are welcome. Otherwise, since the connection is extremely poor in my case, we are using today Wi-Fi because normal line was interrupted. Therefore, next week we're going to summarize and move to the other one. But before that, I'm asking the president of the class to put me your email so that I will put the material. የመረጣችሁት አንድ ፕሬዚደንት ካላችሁ ወይም የክፍል ተወካይ ካላችሁ ያስቀምጥልኝና ኢሜሉን እዚህ ላይ ቻት ቦክስ ላይ ኢሜሉን ይጻፍልኝና ከዛ እኔ ደግሞ ኢሜል አደርግላችኋለሁ። by that you can read them.
Yes, I got a question, madam. Yeah, my question is this. Foreign policies and international relationship. For example, if they collapse, two of them, does it affect the country or? Yeah.
It collapse.
Like
It will not collapse if you understood this way. Okay. International relationship is a binding theory. It is like a frame. Okay, it's just a frame. To have international relationship, we need to have a policy that will treat us equally. Okay, let's say it is Ethiopia and Kenya. Ethiopia and Kenya want some relationship. The initiation of having this relationship emanates from tourism perspective, for instance. So that tourism is, in another word, it is economic interaction. Yeah. So to have this economic interaction, these both countries will have a policy. The policy is just to fasten their relationship. The policy is just used as a document between these two. If conflict arises, probably. If conflict arises, probably between these two states, then they're going to refer their policy, and accordingly they will resolve the problem. So it doesn't clash. International relations is just a broad concept. Okay, as we have defined at the beginning of the class, it is just a friendship. It is just an alliance. It is a legal relationship between countries. So the states needs a foreign policy to have a relationship, to have a valid relationship. Can I make a point? Did I make a point, my dear?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. ስለዚህ ለሌሎቻችሁም international relationship, it's just a broad concept, and it is what do we have to do with policy. Policy is just a document. That's all. Any more question? It's very good when you ask me question, and when you open your videos, when you are answering my
ልዩነት መፍጠር ዓላማችን ነው። ዓለም አቀፍ ተወዳዳሪ መሆን አለባችሁ። የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ጥራትና ደረጃውን የጠበቀ ስልጠና በመስጠት ብቁ ዜጋ እያፈራን ነው። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን፣ በበረራ መስተንግዶ፣ በቲኬቲንግና ሪዘርቬሽን፣ በሆቴልና ቱሪዝም ሙያዎች አሰልጥነን ተወዳዳሪ እናደርጉታለን። ኮሌጃችን ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና ከእንግሊዙ ICM ጋር በመተባበር ዓለም አቀፍ ዕውቅና ያለው ስልጠና እየሰጠ ይገኛል። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን፣ በበረራ መስተንግዶ የምንሰጣቸው ስልጠና ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና አለው። አድራሻ ከጎላጉል ታወር 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ህልሞን እውን ያድርጉ።